Hey everybody, this is your boy Garrett J. White, the founder of Wake Up Warrior and CEO of DKW Styling. As we've come to recognize here on Date Your Wife, the podcast, the last few weeks, that my wife is telling me I've not been acting very CEO-ish. So we're going to go live in the scene in the back seat of our car here, actually not our car, Adeline's car, which, side note, our bodyguard slash driver slash friend slash mentor slash fitness guru is probably like the fittest guy. Let me put it this way. If you had a driver, I guarantee you my driver's more fit than yours. He is like the fitness extraordinaire. And every time he comes to pick us up, he makes sure that he hits his workout right before, just so he's pumped and his shirt barely fits his biceps. All right, so here's the deal. Danielle, CEO, what does this mean? Do you actually know what the technical definition of CEO is?
Central, eccentric, operator.
Yes. Central, what did you say? Central what?
Central exceptional operator. I don't know. Chief executive officer.
Nice. I didn't even know if you're going to be able to pull that off. I literally didn't. I was like, I'm not sure where you're going to go with this. All right. The chief execution officer. What do? You execute people. All right. So listen, we're going to have a conversation because we're sitting here in the back of our car. We are coming back from Cabo. If you have heard our episode here this last week, we were talking about surrender because we got quote unquote stuck. I mean, I know, first world problems. You got stuck at the one and only resort for 2 more days in Cabo, which wasn't actually bad. It was amazing. We had a great time. But we're going back. Danielle's about to head to Hawaii with the kids. By the time you listen to the show, she'll be in Hawaii with the children. I'll be in Tennessee running events. And then we'll come back together. But today's topic is going to be one I'm going to throw out to Danielle, which is this. Why you must add people to your team. Why you must add people to your team. Now, we're going to start off with the very first person we added to our team, which was a babysitter. Okay, so you're on a roll. You identified and defined CEO. I'd like you to define babysitter.
Do you want me to define what Garrett is as CEO?
Okay. All right.
Why would I define babysitter? What does that have to do with anything in the show?
Because it was the first person that you weren't paying attention. You're on Instagram.
It was the first person that was a part of.
The first person we brought on the team was a babysitter.
So what's our topic is babysitters?
Bringing people on the team.
Okay, gotcha. Bringing people on the team. Yeah.
Define babysitter. What's the difference between a babysitter and a nanny?
Title.
Okay, well, give me a definition split between the title of
I don't
babysitter,
really know.
nanny, we have a third title, which is home manager.
When I think of a babysitter, I think of like your 14-year-old like cousin that comes over to watch your kids. Like, I feel like it's weird if you have, I think our babysitter's like 27. Yeah. Our babysitter, our nanny's like 27. And I feel like it's weird to call her babysitter. You know what I mean? And even then, like, if you have somebody that helps you full time, especially with the kids, oftentimes they help you with other stuff. So they're not really a babysitter. And so we actually call ours a home manager or a nanny. So I feel like that's just like a better title. And to define it, I would just say somebody who helps with the kids, but also helps with kind of things around the home. But I think you have to be careful because if you hire a babysitter, you can't, like, I hear so many women who, like, they'll hire a babysitter and they're like, I'm paying him, $12 an hour. The dishwasher should have just been unloaded. I'm like, okay, well, you're paying a 16-year-old and they're not going to think to do that. So you're actually going to have to communicate if that's what you want done, or pay a little more and hire somebody who has a little more experience.
So you just defined it right there, right? Which is the difference between a babysitter, a nanny, and a home manager is not just a title. The difference between the three is also compensation and also expectation. Now, I've watched people do this all the time. Like, I'll give you an example inside the world of business. A few years ago, one of my clients was very upset. He was expanding his business. His business was not that big. He was doing very well by himself, but he needed a team member. He had like one assistant, but pretty much he was like a hustle, go guy. And he hired his first person. He hired this woman on his team, and she was making like $33,000 a year, which is like nothing. It's not bad. It's not Like, it's not bad, it's not great. It's a good entry-level position to start on the team, and she came in as an assistant to him. And then we were having a conversation one day, and he started talking to me about how upset he was. Like, oh my God, this woman, she's like not turning out, she's not panning out. And I'm like listening to him. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, the guy paid me years ago. I mean, this is what people do. It pay me to just listen and talk and help clarify things with them and then help them make better decisions as business owners and as husbands. So I'm like, okay, listen, so run this by me one more time. What are your expectations of this woman? Kate, now the list that he began to drop on me was the expectation list of a chief marketing officer, a chief financial officer, as well as a chief operations officer. We're talking about 3 major positions, which in a company of normal size would be a small business owner, small business under $25 million, under $50 million, I think technically is what it would be considered. Under that, you're looking at $500,000 to more a year in salaried payroll. But I got a guy who has a $33,000 a year salaried employee, first-time assistant. He's expecting to manage the books, do all his marketing, and also build his systems and processes. This is for real. So I look at him and I'm like, bro, listen, do you understand your expectations are completely out of whack with what your compensation is?
What happens if you...
Now I'm going to come back. Okay, well, let's talk about how we've messed this up, though, because one of the current distinctions on bringing someone on the team is undercompensating with over-expecting, and then you have the other side, which we tried to fix, because we messed this up with babysitters. Then we learned that, and then we got to nannies, but then I went the other direction, and I overcompensated a nanny we had about 3 nannies ago.
It's not just with nannies, it could be with...
I know, but we're talking about nannies right now. Well, I was giving an example in business. So let's talk through, and I want you to, we're going to got a little FaceTime coming on from Ruby. We might get Ruby live on the show right now. Hold on, let's hear from her. Ruby! Ruby, talk on the show. Say hello to everyone.
Dad's recording a Date Your Wife.
Hi.
Ruby, what is a babysitter?
What's a what? What?
What is a babysitter?
No, I'll call her back.
No, don't call back. I want to know this. What is a babysitter?
Tori's over here like...
No, Tori's not a babysitter. What is a babysitter?
Yes, she is!
She's not a babysitter. She's better than a babysitter.
A babysitter is a baby... Wait, no.
A babysitter is what?
A babysitter is a baby that sits.
A baby that gets sat on. Oh, okay. Okay. So what is it? Ruby, what is a nanny?
The difference between a nanny and a babysitter. A nanny's like full-time and committed and works like a lot and actually likes the kids. And a babysitter's over here like, yeah, okay, so I need you guys to go to bed while I'm watching my Bachelor. So go. I'll make you some mac and cheese. Go upstairs now, sweetie.
Okay, well, leave it to my 12-year-old to clearly define the distinction between these two. Okay, Bailey, I'm going to ask you one more question because we have another distinction. Because Tori's actually more than a nanny. She's actually a home manager. What's the difference between a nanny and a home manager? Go, you're on a roll.
Nanny is after the kids, and they're like loving the kids. But a home manager and a nanny mixed together, they like manage like the cleaners, they manage like the people who come and work on the house. They make sure like packages are dropped off at certain times. They go and like run errands for the parents, and yeah.
So the minute that we start to wonder if we can handle all of your emotions and you go off and make a home run hit like you just did, well done, Bailey.
I know.
Not shy in front of the
Okay.
Okay, love you. We're on our way home.
So you just got here. Tell her we'll call her after the show's over. All right, so love you, babe.
Love you, Mom.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so we've been FaceTime parents for the past 5 days with our kids because, again, the Strand and Cabo thing was longer than we thought. But here's the thing. You just listen to my daughter explain the difference. Babysitter's part-time, kind of cares about the kids, really just there to make sure that people, they live. Nanny's there, loves the kids, engages with the kids, is full-time with the kids, full-time in the game. right? They're with us. Sometimes they travel, sometimes they don't travel with the family, but they're engaged. They know the kids' schedules, etc. Then you have home manager, which extends duties beyond the children into the role of taking care of operations in the house. So, like, simple things, making sure the bills get handed to the team to get paid, making sure that, like, whatever it was, like, your home manager could be whatever you consider it to be. So we actually built these 3 tiers inside of the way that we dealt with someone in our home because of how much what it actually gave us, right? Which was space, and it gave us time, and it gave us quality of time to be with our kids. When we were with our kids, we were dealing with our kids on a level of engaging and playing and connecting with our children. And also it allowed Danielle to build her business, allowed me to build my businesses, and allowed us to have date nights and to have it consistent. So these 3 levels. Now, what the problem becomes is if you have a babysitter that you expect to be a home manager, but you're paying your babysitter $13 an hour and you think that this person should be operating like somebody who's making $40,000, $50,000 a year, right? Which is just not the case. Like, that's not how it works. That's not how it operates. But there is a piece, and we're going to talk about this, overcompensating what we thought was a home manager and how it actually turned into entitlement a few of our team members ago.
I feel like we've had this conversation on the show already.
We're talking about adding team members.
Okay, let's talk about adding team members.
We're discussing one right now, but you have literally half this show been plugged into Instagram.
I have not.
No, everyone listening right now knows.
Over the whole show.
Well, I have had to take over the show because everyone knows you're not even focused.
I was talking to Ruby.
You were not. You talked to Ruby for literally 12 seconds.
I haven't been on Instagram, so.
You've not been on Instagram. Just check your history.
Okay, do you want to be on the
Nope,
show?
we're on it. So here we go. We're talking about adding team members. Okay. For those listening to the show right now, you can tell that Danielle's not focused on the show right now. We're going to get her focused here in the last 20 minutes.
The whole time.
I can't not talk if you're going to sit there and not pay attention on Instagram.
I was not on Instagram.
We're going to go to the judge.
Literally not.
I'm going to put Adeline in a no-win situation.
I was on it for like 2 seconds.
I'm going to make Adeline choose one of our sides right now.
How could I have been on Instagram? I was sitting in
and I already know what he'll do. He'll choose your side, which means I'm going to call a friend.
Is this the Garrett Show?
I'm going to call a friend right now.
Show?
No, it's not the Garrett Show.
Let's keep this topic going then.
All right, so we're adding team members. You added the point of overcompensating.
Right.
So talk about the problem with overcompensating team members with what you have high expectations, but you overcompensate. This is not like a babysitter conversation. We're working our way in here.
I just feel like what happens, like we've hired on people, like even in my salons and things like that were probably making like $2,000 to $4,000 a month, and they get to this place where they're making like $15,000 to $20,000 a month, and they like, it's like they've had a taste of this kind of money, and then there's like no going back, and so it creates this weird energy. I actually had like 3 girls leave my salon, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, like you guys are making like maybe $4,000 working over 40 hours a week. You're making, if you average it out, you're probably making, $15,000, $20,000 a month. Like, and that's good money, and you're never working as many hours as you used to. And so you run this risk if you overcompensate people. It builds a lot of entitlement, and they literally create stories in their mind where they can't see anything else, and they start painting you as even the bad guy and like collecting evidence to back their story, and it's so rooted for their behaviors that they do.
We had a nanny like this, and Danielle came to me one day and she said, listen, I cannot have her in the house anymore. Like, I should not feel awkward the way I feel awkward. I should not feel when we're going shopping, when we're doing anything. I should not feel the things I'm feeling when she's around. And yet she did. And our nanny actually became competitive with Danielle inside of her own house. And I was like, that shit's getting shut down like immediately. This was like 5 years ago.
I think she was too comfortable. I mean, like, I really liked her, but there has to be like these boundaries that you have and like a respect you have for somebody who's employing you. And I feel like it just became too comfortable. There was like several times where she'd just come down in my sweats and she's like, hey, I hope you don't care I'm borrowing these. And I didn't care. I just thought it was crossing the line. I was like, no, like, you're not my sister. That is weird. So from a business standpoint, I was like, like, I just started to feel really uncomfortable. Like, I had to ask her if it's okay if I go work out while she watches the kids. Like, you know what I mean? So I actually genuinely liked her as a person. It just, this whole situation, I was like, I don't like feeling like this. She's not fit for the job. And I felt like for what she was doing, like, we were overpaying her. So for me to feel this way was completely unacceptable.
So there's one example of adding someone to the team, which is a babysitter / nanny / home manager. The dilemmas of overcompensation, undercompensation, over expectations, under expectations. Okay, we're going to talk about the next team member that was added to the equation, which actually I think it was added long before that. When was the first time we had somebody start helping clean the house and do some laundry? Because you fought this passionately. I know we've talked about this before.
But I've never fought a cleaner. I've honestly never fought a cleaner. I grew up, my mom always had a cleaner. Like, to me, that was just like, you had a cleaner. It's like I know in like London, they have an au pair. Like, you just have an au pair. Like, it's not like, oh my God, you're like living this luxurious lifestyle. Like, for me, I grew up with cleaners, and we always had a cleaner. Literally, the only time we didn't have a cleaner was like we literally were not paying rent. We couldn't afford our house, our cars. Like, I was just saving my money to eat at that point. So that, for me, like, the cleaner is not a big deal. But what is so funny, and I'll tell you what a lot of women do, is they clean their house before the cleaners come. And that's where I would probably fight Garrett, because I'd go through and I'd pick up, and he'd be like, I don't get what you're doing. Why are you making the beds? Why are you organizing before the cleaners get here? And I was like, my story was, they just clean around it and they just stack it. And a bad cleaner, yes, does that. And we actually had an experience here in California where we did have cleaners. She'd bring in her whole team, and something about them, I was just like, I didn't trust them, because I don't know, like, there was just a lot of revolving people in her team, and there was something about it I didn't trust. And then I kind of felt like they didn't do the best job, but it was like to the point where I'm like, I didn't know anyone else who could clean, and I didn't want to do it myself. And anyways, we ended up firing her is because they stole some cash, and I caught one of her girls because I had stuck like a $20 bill in my purse, and then I was sick all afternoon, was laying there in bed. Anyways, I went to order a pizza that night. I was like, oh yeah, I'll pay cash. I have like a couple 20s sitting in my bag, and like the cash was gone. So like, I knew that was like the only people that had been in the house. Anyway, so we ended up firing them, and then my next round, when I found a cleaner, I was like, okay, I'm going to take Garrett on this idea of like not cleaning before the cleaners come. And if I can teach them to organize for me and tell them exactly what I need done, then I just know that they're going to like get it done. And so we hired a lady named Jasmine, super sweet, super good energy. And I never felt uncomfortable like leaving my house messy. Like, sometimes you tiptoe around and you're like, oh, sorry, it's so messy. I never felt like that with her. Like, I'd come in the middle of her cleaning, she'd smile, and she'd be like folding my underwear or whatever she was doing, cleaning up shit off the carpet. I don't know. And she just would smile, and I was like, oh, I like your energy, but also I had to be very specific. And I was like, listen, I need help. So she comes twice a week, and I'm like, I need you to like organize. I need you to help me be the house organizer. So between like a home manager, who I'm like, hey, if you see projects that need to be done, you need to delegate it to the cleaner. Then it like opened up this whole another level of me not feeling like, shitty cleaners didn't do a good job, because I gave them better direction. And yeah.
You have done a much better job of not cleaning for an hour before the cleaners show up.
And I have them do my laundry. A lot of women are like, oh, I just...
You were not about that.
I know. You know what, though? I'm super... I love clothes. I mean, if you follow my blog or any of my stuff, I love clothes. And I'm super picky with my clothes. Even now, I still get irritated because the cleaners, like me and my daughter, Bailey, we're almost like the same size now. And literally, they always get our, like... They've even getting our bras mixed up. I'm like, oh my God, like... One's a really little one and one's a really big one. Like, come on, you can't get that mixed up. And so but laundry was one thing that I hated. I didn't mind doing it because I'm very particular with how things are sorted, what things go to the dry cleaner, what things are dried, what things are not. But I hate folding it and putting it away. And so I asked my cleaner, I'm like, if I do all the laundry, can you fold it all and put it away? So she does a good job. And it's funny because even though it drives me nuts when I don't know where some stuff is, she puts it away way better than I do. Like, she color coordinates it. She rolls my shirts. Like, it's way better than I could do.
She's amazing. Jasmine's grown with us too, which is super fun. She'd been with us for like 4 years, I think. And we've watched her build a little company because she does all my offices. She does our salons. She does our house. She does like 5 or 6 other people that were connected to his house. She went from herself to a team with the same t-shirts. Although I gave her a hard time because she rarely shows up with a t-shirt on. She just has our team show up with a t-shirt on. But here was the thing. Jasmine was a single mom. Single mom with kids, and was struggling to pay the bills, and has grown and built a business inside of our world. And so part of what I think people don't see, particularly as you start to get busier and busier in business, and I know some of you listening right now, you're in a situation you might be thinking, oh my God, these are first world problem Orange County bitches, and like, who are these guys? I get it. I mean, trust me, I was not raised in this kind of environment either, but I also wasn't raised by entrepreneurs. Now, I was raised in scarcity with very little money, with very little understanding of business and creation and busyness, etc. And so my mom and dad also were very hard workers, which is where I got my addiction to working hard. But so I never experienced any of that growing up. So in the beginning, it was very weird for me too. Like I felt weird. I felt like almost like I should be helping clean up. So like when they would show up, I feel like I needed to scrub things with them. I'd be like, oh shit, I don't want you to clean the toilet. I'll clean the toilet with you. I have no problem cleaning the toilet. I clean toilets my whole life, so I'll clean the toilet with you. And that what I didn't recognize, one day I was sitting there with one of my friends and he said, listen, dude, you have to understand, like, you think this is something that's bad that they're doing. Like, meaning because you don't want to do it or you're handing it off or you're creating something for them. But what you're not seeing is the opportunity that you're creating for them. He said, I'll take an example with your cleaner. Look at her. I was like, she's built this little business inside. She's financially taking care of herself and her children. She doesn't have a man that's supporting her. She's a single mom. She has built a little business. She employs 3 other people. And all of this is because of you. Like, do you not recognize this? If you were selfish enough and stupid enough to just take all this on by yourself, not only does it affect you as a producer, affect your marriage, and affect your family, but it affects the lives of other people around you. And I started to look at this because I know how big of a difference it is when we employ people in our companies, like how big that was, but I'd never actually looked at it that way from people at our home. So the second team that we added were cleaners. There was a third team member that we added. We actually added him. In the beginning, it was kind of not as much, but which was a handyman. Handyman, which is Theo, is actually how we got Jasmine.
I used to think like, so my dad builds homes and he's very like, you think of like manly man, like he was like there building hands physically like my whole life. Like people see my dad and they're like, your dad's a brick. I'm like, that is a man of hard labor for his whole life, but he built a successful business and whatnot. And anyways, where was I going with that?
Talking about your dad being a manly man. You're about to.
Oh, no, I wasn't. So I grew. I wasn't making fun of you.
Hands,
no.
I
literally went to this day when my parents come visit us. My dad he'll get some lacquer and he's like polishing my cabinets, and I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I fixed your garage, I changed your filters, and I polished this. And I was like. And I'm like thinking like, why doesn't Garrett do that? But Garrett doesn't do that. And my dad is like literally knows everything that has to do with a home. And he would like notice a crack on your wall and like patch it up. Like that's just how he is. And so it was so funny because like in the beginning of our marriage, I would get like irritated and I'd be like, you need to do this. This is a man's job. And he's like, why don't you do it? And so it was this argument of like, well, who's going to do it? And we'd have like air conditioning units go out and swimming pools go out and like the houses.
Water. Remember when there was a moment back when we were first married, I was really trying to prove my manness. So I took on the swimming pool. I was like, you know what I can do? I can take care of the chemicals in the swimming pool. I got this handled.
It went great.
And you were like, no, you shouldn't do that. I was like, no, I am going to do this. I can take care of our pool. Sure enough, within 1 week, it was green as hell. No one could fucking swim in it. Like, literally, they were putting up biohazard signs. Helicopters were flying over. They were banning the neighborhood. There was an Ebola outreach because of my lack of ability to fucking deal with the pool.
You think of like, oh, you maybe over chlorinate it. No, literally, like, our pool had like moss growing out within a week. I was like, what? Our pool has moss. I was like, not only did you screw up the chemicals, but like something is growing inside of our pool. And the guy came back and he's like, yeah, this is really bad. We're going to have to like empty this completely. I was like, you trying to take care of the swimming pool cost us like $1,200. Like, I just remember I was like, stop doing that.
So then what she didn't know is that, like, I hated, my whole life I had to wash the dishes all the time. And I had to mow the lawn, take the garbage out. Like, I did everything. I was raised, like, we just did it. Like, that was it. I worked, I scrubbed toilets, I did this. I worked in cattle slaughtering plants. I worked construction. I worked hard labor. Like, I did all this stuff. Like, that was my world. That's all I knew. Like, that world. So for me, when I got to a place where I was like, man, I could not do this again. Like, I remember even long before that, you got the cleaner first. The first person even before a handyman we added was a lawn guy. And a yard guy, because I was trying to mow our lawn. I got all pumped, went to Home Depot. I was like, I'm going to give myself a fucking lawnmower. Then I get the lawnmower, but I don't really know how to take care of like plants and stuff. And it's not even that I couldn't learn how to take care of plants. It's just that I didn't give a shit. I would come back on a Saturday after a week of work and look at the lawn and look at the trees and look at the bushes and go, the last thing I want to do right now is go outside and trim all this shit. Like, I'm not 80 years old where I find purpose in my trees and trimming my bushes.
I think that was like the difference in like our generation education and how they were raised and like our parents. Like, even though we have a little bit of that in us where, like you said, your parents made you do the lawn and the dishes and things like that, I think now people, like you said, you're busy working and doing other things, whereas like in our parents' ages or when they were younger, it was just like the woman's responsibility to like do all the home stuff and the men's responsibility to do like the manly handyman stuff and mow the lawn and do all that. But it actually, I mean, I suck with plants too. Like, I have plants inside my house, and I think that women are expected to like keep plants up, and I'm like, I keep killing plants. Like, so like neither of us are very great at like, we sound like we're special or something.
We're special at killing plants. So you look at the people on the team. We have a babysitter, which evolved into a nanny, which evolved into a home manager. We then had a lawn team, which dealt with our yard because we liked that yard nice. But I looked at how much I was paying to get the lawn done every week and how much I stressed out about it. And I was stressed out about it, and it wasn't worth it to me. I was already working so hard. I was like, last thing I want to do is fucking get grass clippings in my socks and underwear. I was like, I don't like this. And then the crazy part, my lawn guy, the second lawn guy, he was like our yard guy. So he managed the whole yard, the lawn, the sprinkler systems, etc. He was so pumped about sprinkler systems. I would come home from the office and he would see me in the yard, and I would come in and he would just want to talk to me for an hour about how pumped he was about the new filtration system inside of the irrigation system, inside of the sprinkler system. I'm like, dude, listen, I appreciate how passionate you are about it. That's why I hired you. That's why you're on the team. That's why we love having you part of the family unit here. But like, I honestly don't give a shit. As long as the grass is green, that's great. And even there, even if it's just kind of green, I'm okay with that too. Just like make sure shit like stays up to par with our HOA so that we don't get banned and get fines on the other side.
On the other end of it, where we've had companies like, I swear, we're like paying them to show up every month, and they come like once a month, and I'm like, and it like gets to the point where I look at Garen, I'm like, does our lawn look like shit? And he's like, yeah. And if we notice that it's really bad.
So let's look at our rundown on team members. We have a babysitter or a nanny or a home manager. We have a lawn team. We have a cleaner and cleans house and laundry. Okay, so these are team members that you can be considering as a couple, and we're going to get to a point about why having all these team members matter. Then the next person we added was the handyman, which was Theo, and Theo became like our family. He's just an amazing guy, runs an amazing team. And it started with a small project at my office, and then it turned into doing stuff at the house. And now our home manager and our handyman coordinate on stuff for the house. If things get broken, etc. I mean, I'm not Danielle's dad. Like, he shows up to visit us, and no bullshit, he will walk around the house for the entire first day, and then he'll come to me the next morning. No, he loves it. He walks up to me the next morning after I get back in from surfing, and he'll come in and he'll go, I'm like, yeah, what's up, Dave? You run me over to you got yourself a True Value hardware store around here? I'm like, I don't even know, but we could Google it. Let's check it out. I was like, yeah, there's one like 3 miles from here. You want me to take you? And then he looks at me like a guy that's just super excited. And he's like, yeah, let's go. So then we head over to True Value and we walk up and down the aisles, and he just picks up all kinds of gear. And then we come home. He spends the whole day doing things. One of the things that made me laugh so hard was I had this squeak in the door in the garage. So I wake up early and I go walk every morning, but it was so damn loud and squeaky that I would open it and would go, like it just echoed through our house. And I'm like, oh my God, here, so much for trying to be sneaky and getting out so the girls and Danielle stay asleep. He buys this like WD-40, which I knew about, but I didn't do anything about it for literally 6 months. And Dave shows up, he squirts a little squirt, does it, puts in some grease, pulls it apart, puts the door back together. The thing hasn't squeaked ever since. So part of what I'm getting to with all of these people are handyman and everything he does for us. And then the person that we're actually with right now over the last year and a half, which is Adeline. And Adeline's actually driving our vehicle right now. Not ours. I don't even know why I keep saying our vehicle. It's not. I feel like I'm in the car so much that it's like our family. Me, Adeline, you, the rest of the team. Adeline drives my clients. He drives my wife. He drives my wife's wife and her girlfriends when they go out. My kids, myself, picks us up back and forth from airports, drives us around on date night if we're going to be consuming a little more beverage than maybe anticipated. And all of this. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at just the unit that has become the idea of family. And just like a company, an entrepreneur looks at their business and says, I cannot grow this by myself. I must let go in order to grow. I mean, have you considered that inside of your family life, it is no different? that as you and your partner become more and more successful inside of the game of business and life, that it's actually selfish for you to continue to play the game so small. And in order to play bigger, that means you're going to have to involve more team members.
What if the wife's like, I like doing it. Here's the funny thing is, like, a lot of women, like, say for example, take the laundry. You know, I own a salon. This topic comes up, and women will be like saying how they hate doing the laundry or whatever. And I'm like, well, why do you do it then? Just hire it out. And they're, oh, you know, I don't mind it. And all of a sudden their tune kind of, and he's like, so be careful with if you're doing things out of guilt, and if you had somebody do it, could you let go of that guilt, and could you find something else fulfilling to put your time towards? And even keep in mind too, I know, like, when in periods of my life when I haven't worked and whatnot, when I'm doing stuff around the house that I don't enjoy doing, I tend to be more bugged at the children, or, hey, I'll do this in a minute, mom's got to finish this. And I think if you can eliminate some of that stress, even if it's housework, then you can take that extra time and spend it with your children or go on date nights. And it just alleviates a lot of unwanted stress. So you can't let guilt dictate or determine hiring out help.
So the final summary for today's show is this. You cannot build a family without a team. It's difficult, if not impossible, to build your family to ultimately become what you want it to be, and your marriage to become what you want it to be by trying to do it alone. And this is the story that so many individuals play, and this is the game that so many individuals play, which is the story that you can do this alone. That you can do life alone, you can do marriage alone, you don't need anyone else. And this is a story that must be shifted. And it's a story that had to shift in me, a story that had to shift in Danielle. And I know you're listening to all of this, and there's going to be some of you listening to this that economically are in a place where you know, it may trigger you. And I understand, man, it would have triggered me back in the day too. I get it. My consideration for you is this. Don't be triggered from a place of angry of these dicks, or this guy's an asshole, or how dare they, or that's Orange County life. That's not how it works for me, particularly all my friends from the Midwest. I don't have anything against it. I'm just saying, like, I know it's very different when you talk to people who live on the coast, on both sides, West Coast, East Coast. But just consider the principle, which is it's okay to bring people on the team to accelerate your marriage and your family. Like, it's okay. And if you were to look in your world right now, where is the one place in your life where you could bring someone on the team to free you up to actually be the thing that matters, which is being there in time with your wife and being there in time with your children? Because if you try to do it all and you spend all day long outside in the yard, you realize that although you're in some kind of stewardship idea that you're taking care of the family, that the $25 you may have spent to have somebody take care of the yard that day, you could have spent the whole morning at the park with your children. And when you start considering the cost of not having people on the team, and the cost on your marriage for not having full-time help with a nanny or a babysitter, or even a home manager, or even a consistent babysitter so you can go on date night every single week, you'll start to recognize the greatest cost that you're experiencing is an unseen cost of the impact of constantly being wrapped up in duties and responsibilities and activities and behavior that keeps you busy and keeps you locked away from actually experiencing the beauty of what your marriage and your family could truly be. So, Danielle, what are your final thoughts here from this show?
My final thoughts, I guess, would specifically be to women: let go, test it out, see what happens, see if it makes an improvement, test it for a couple months, see what happens, see what opens up in your relationship with your kids, your spouse. Maybe you take on, you know, even if you're not working, maybe you take on some kind of project that you find a ton of passion in doing. So anyways, my advice would be to just kind of let go. And one quick story I'll share really quick for Garrett and I is when we were kind of financially struggling and in a sticky place in our marriage, one of the things that we both committed to doing was date nights. Now, we moved out of state. We had no family around us. We didn't know anybody. I had 2 little kids, so I was like pretty high anxiety about it. Plus, we didn't have a ton of money. But we made a commitment in order to rebuild our relationship that it was important to go out without the kids and go on date nights once a week. Thus the name of the show, Date Your Wife. So it was, for us, I felt like it was a big deal. Like, I mean, the idea of going out, and we lived in places, you know, not as expensive as Orange County, and even the idea of paying a babysitter and then going out was like $200 a week. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, like, I don't think we have $200 a week. But I knew, like, if we committed to it, we would find a way to make it happen. And we did. So I think in my experience, you know, test small things like that may alleviate stress in your life, whether it's housekeeping, date nights, anything like that. Test a little bit of it and see what improvements that makes in your marriage and your life. And you would be surprised with how you're able to make that happen. And that the story that, oh, we can't afford that, was just something that you were telling yourself.
And there you have it, my friends. That is this week's episode. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. By the time you listen to this, we will be dividing and conquering. Actually, I think we'll both be back the day this release from our little trips with me to Tennessee to go speak at Funnel Hacking Live and do some trading and business out there. And Danielle heading to Hawaii with the kids for a little girls' weekend getaway on the ski trip or ski week for the school. And hope you guys have a great week. We look forward to talking to you next week here on Date Your Wife. A few places you can check out more notes and show notes and tips and tricks on this is head to dateyourwifenow.com. If you'd like to follow more with Danielle, make sure you swing over to dkwstyling.com. And as always, if you want to plug into the warrior movement as a man or a woman, and you're looking to plug into what we're up to, you can head to warriorbook.com and get yourself started today. That's all I got for you. This is Garrett White signing off, saying love and light. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.